Cool. Well, thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Charles Ruffin. I'm a captain in the United States Space Force. I've been in the military serving for almost 16 years. I was a prior enlisted Intel All Source Analyst for 11 years before I commissioned as a Space Operations Officer. I've been in the Space Force for just over a year now, and it's been quite exciting. I've done everything from satellite command and control to missile warning, missile defense, and then a few command and control of like ground-based radars and things like that. So I've got a wife who's a professional musician. I've got 3 young daughters. You can probably hear them in the background. They're getting ready for school. And we live in Maxwell, in Prattville, Alabama. I'm stationed at Maxwell Air Force Base out here, currently supporting what we call our Guardian Education Development. We just stood up a new command here, and as part of our mission set, we're working to develop our Guardians by creating programs for our bachelor's and master's degree equivalent, and then working on enlisted education development as well. So we've got a lot of hands and places and doing a lot of things all across the U.S., but this is where we're kind of home based at. So that's the quick and dirty about me.
That is awesome. I was actually reading about maybe 6 months ago that our junior ROTC at one of our local high schools is actually the first Space Force junior ROTC in the country, apparently.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Where are you located?
Houston, Texas, in the Klein School District.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, cool. Yeah, one of our detachment commanders, she's in charge of all of our JROTC and ROTC units that are across the US. So we're working every day to stay in touch with all of the local units and make sure that they have all the resources they need as they stand up too.
So I guess in terms of Space Force, you have like the near-term mission of protecting space assets and space situational awareness and that type of thing. But then you have like the long-range vision, which seems very futuristic. And I was just wondering, how you think about Space Force.
I love it so far. I mean, we're really embracing the digital edge, right? We live in an era where modern technology basically enables and enhances human life all across the world. There are some countries that don't have direct access to internet or some technological resources as much as others, but there's definitely a civilian population that is working to improve that. And the Space Force is all about defense of the nation, right? So we're looking at anything that can improve national security, and we're truly embracing the digital edge by incorporating anything that we can include with technology as a basis. Our chief of staff of operations for space, General Raymond, he essentially has put the word out saying, hey, we're going to try to utilize digital technology to improve our mission sets everywhere. So we have an entire office that is designed to do that. That's the CTIO. And pretty much every section within the Space Force is looking for ways to incorporate or improve technology to make our processes better. And that goes from everyday instances like, utilizing technology in education, but also improving our capabilities systems wise. Our satellite command and control systems, some of them are pretty dated, but looking at ways to improve the technology to make the missions more streamlined and seamless. So, but yeah, very futuristic, and always looking for that strategic technological edge, and improving our everyday way of life as a digital force.
And I guess before you joined Space Force, were you actually in the Air Force?
Yes, I was. I was in the Air Force for 15 years. I did the same job essentially. I was a space operations officer, but whenever the Space Force stood up, They took all of the core career fields that were space related, us being space operations officers on the commission side, and then our 1 Charlie 6s, which is our enlisted equivalent. So those 2 career fields moved over, gave us our first initial course, and then we took on a few other mission areas too, like cyber, intel, and some other acquisitions. And so out of the 5 career fields that set up the core of the force, that's essentially what came over. And then we put out a word out to the rest of the Air Force saying, if you would like to transfer into the Space Force as the new branch of service, you have that opportunity to transfer over. And a lot of us did, and a lot of us didn't. But that's, that's just the nature of developing a new military branch.
Now, I know there's been a little controversy about Air Force versus Navy ranks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was just having a conversation about this yesterday with somebody about the difference between like the Navy and other branches of the military. And one kind of critical kind of physical difference between like the Navy and other military is that they actually live on like the boats, right? I mean, like in the submarines and in the aircraft carriers, and it's both their home and their weapon. It's like
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas a person in the Air Force will live on the base and then get in the plane for a mission. And so right now at this point in the Space Force kind of evolution or development, the Air Force ranks kind of make sense because it's very much similar to the Air Force in that way. But at some far range future, do you think there actually be like vehicles that will be operational throughout the solar system that would have Space Force people on it? At that point, it kind of does transition over to the Navy way of life.
So I think, even in our strategic goals now, there's a vision to improve our footprint, in space, right? And it's mostly to enable civilian life. Like we utilize space for a lot of different reasons, and most of those reasons now are purely for scientific, right? We've developed cures for diseases. We've created new ways of developing herbal life, if you will, on the International Space Station. Hundreds of science experiments have come from doing experiments from the International Space Station. Our technology on our cell phones, the cameras, the way we're able to do digital phone calls, via this type of communication, a lot of that technology came from our use of space. So what the DoD side of it on the Space Force portion is to try to protect those assets. And, we do that by space situational awareness, or what we call now space domain awareness. And, we ensure the safety and the security of anything that's going to operate in and through space. And so in the future, if you're looking at, 50 to 100 years from now, there very well could be a Space Force, maybe a space station or something along those lines, where astronauts go up there and start conducting our own scientific experimentation, that will enable civilian life, or even enable the government in some ways. And that's kind of an interesting thought, right? Where can we take the Space Force and really drive home the defense factor? Weaponization of space is something that we 100% want to avoid, right? We don't want to utilize space as a strategic advantage to employ weapons from space to an adversary. And we're very much an advocate of that. But there are still threats that exist from adversary nations that utilize space systems that threaten other space systems that are allies. So it's a different playing field up there. It takes a longevity mindset to really look at the strategic threat and to keep it, to protect the entire world almost from that threat. And so it's an interesting concept, that I've heard the people talk about moon bases and, having like a destroyer ship system like that, and really large ships. It takes a lot of technology to be able to develop those. But we have some pioneers on Earth now, like Elon Musk types and Jeff Bezos and, those types of folks that are willing to put in their own money, time, and effort to make us an interplanetary, species, really. So you never know what comes of that, and hopefully the Space Force is there to protect a lot of that too. So
Yeah,
my
talking
daughter.
about Jeff. Oh, hi. How are you doing? Um, so talking about Elon Musk, he has a vision of building a million-person city on Mars by like 2050.
Yeah,
Um, he's gone way beyond PowerPoint, at least in terms of the initial transportation system.
true. Yeah,
And he actually has real hardware that's in various stages of test and development down here in Boca Chica, Texas.
yep,
Um,
absolutely.
and it feels like he's 100% committed in making that happen. And
His
it's kind of
interviews are
amazing what he's accomplished.
yeah, his interviews are quite amazing, especially the way he speaks about being the pioneer for space. And his whole caution is that, if it's not done now, then who's going to do it? And then we run the risk of losing our opportunity because there's not many people out there that are doing it and supporting that, that mission set to become interplanetary and learn from it and develop our species as a human race, to be able to be interplanetary. So, he's very passionate about it. And uh, the Space Force doesn't do much on the civilian, exoplanet exploration missions quite yet. If there comes a need to where we need to be defending another planet, then awesome. But we'll see how that goes.
Um, yeah, but I mean, I think there's been some interest in the military for Starship in terms of transportation. I mean, the ability to send 100 tons pretty much any place in the world within 30 minutes. It's got to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that intercontinental cargo transport in a matter of hours versus days, um, is very critical, especially when we go to enable operations worldwide. That's something that is a logistic that can be improved by Starship's capabilities because of the amount of weight that it can carry, and the relaunch and reload capability. That's a system that can be utilized multiple times, and that's an excellent technology improvement there. That wasn't there before, and Elon Musk is continuously improving that. By testing and research and development. So even the evolution of Starship is happening right before our eyes. And if you're not paying close enough attention, I watch it pretty much on a daily basis, you kind of miss that evolution. And it's exciting, it really is. Even being in the Space Force and watching his improvements, I can only imagine what those applications will be in the future.
So kind of moving a little closer to home about Artemis and going back to the moon. I was wondering when and how you learned about that.
So I used to follow Jim Bridenstine, the former NASA administrator, rather closely. He's one of the most passionate NASA administrators that I've ever experienced, and I watched them pretty closely. He was all over social media. He was interacting with Congress. He was, in the news. He was a huge advocate of most space programs. And I actually got a chance to meet him about 2 months ago in person and tell him that, that, hey, like, out of the NASA administrators that I've known in my time, he's been one of the youngest NASA administrators, which is incredibly relatable to people in our age group. And two, he just kind of was a great speaker, and he was very knowledgeable. He didn't sit down and just take the bullets without having some type of rebuttal. So when he spoke about the Artemis program and going to the moon and, what that meant for society and, how convincing he was to the people in the same room as him, I really grasped onto that. And so, our transfer to the moon, or our endeavors to the moon, have always been quite complex in the past. It's been 60, 70 years in some cases, since we've ever taken that journey. And so to see where our technology is today and to put people back on the moon and bring them back home, I'm excited for it, right? And I'm really looking forward to what we can do now as a society to bring people back to the moon, and what we can do to benefit from it. So yeah, it's been really cool to watch.
Yeah, I think Jim really surprised a lot of people. Not only was he a good speaker, but he was a quick learner and good listener too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I wish he had stayed on. I mean, I like Nelson. I think is okay, but Jim,
Yeah,
I think hit all the right notes and had built up some momentum. It would have been great
yeah,
to see that through.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I look forward to the Artemis program. I definitely, wish all the success. I've been watching the SLS system, and its mating procedures and where they're at in the stages, and it's really phenomenal to see something so massive getting prepared to launch into space and take these astronauts over to the moon. So it's going to be a cool day. And there's a launch actually coming up for was it the third space crew Dragon? Is coming up on Halloween morning. So even those are just as exciting, because that just shows that we're continuously exploring space, in every type of capacity. And it's very, very interesting. And I think society really needs to kind of pick up their pace a little bit on keeping track of these things. Space Force isn't all about watching the aliens. We don't just keep an eye on weird green bugs coming to the planet or something like that. We do a lot of, the space domain awareness, as you mentioned. And when it comes to civilian spaceflight, Space Force is right there monitoring, that system to and from, and ensuring the safety and security of any human that's on those capsules. So, that's just one small mission set, but it's critical in nature because there's a lot of logistics, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of resources involved. Um, there's some uniformed members that are providing some resources, and there's a lot of civilian members, but we work hand in hand. And I think you'll see that a lot as the Space Force continues to grow and we start seeing these civilian programs improving, over the next couple of generations.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think the world's going to change a lot over the next decade, and it'd be very surprising to us. I mean, just like with the internet. I mean, in '94, whenever Netscape came out and everybody was using dial-up, it's hard to imagine us having conversations like we're having now. What you're seeing. So I had one last question for you, and that was, if it was safe and affordable, would you take a trip to space?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say safe and affordable is where we're at now. Affordable, not so much out of my own pocket. That's, a few $100,000 or more that I don't have. Safety is certainly there, and it's improving. Jeff Bezos has proved it. Virgin Galactic, they're getting there, but they were still able to get into space. And so that was exciting. And then, you have the Elon Musk that's, also sending astronauts to and from the International Space Station. So, yeah, if I got a shot being a military member to be an astronaut as a space operations officer, I would take it. I don't think my wife would like it, or my kids. They've said absolutely not, but yes, for sure. And one of it is just so that way I can take one single photo of planet Earth and go live or something up there as a Space Force captain and say, yes, the Earth is right there. It is round, it is big, it is beautiful, and we are so insignificant in comparison. And we need to learn the ways of living on Earth still, but while also exploring. And so it's absolutely, yeah, I would definitely do it.
Yeah, your family might feel a lot different after a few 100,000 people go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think my kids, they're going to grow up in an evolution where, space travel may be more regular. It's going to be, but by the time they're in my age group, they're probably going to see space travel become a frequent thing versus just, you know, hey, this $200,000 seats available, or you had to raise X amount of money for a nonprofit, you know, to get a seat. You know, I think it'll become more of a regular thing. So, which is also exciting to see. I'll be too old, my body will be a little bit more run down, but they get to experience it, which will be great for me. So,
I don't know. Medical technology is also advancing.
yeah, that's true.
Regeneration. You might, when you're in your 60s, you might be closer to your 20s than you are now.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, we did send a 90-year-old man into space, so you know, there's still a possibility.
That's true. Well, thank you so much for your time, and it was so good to get to connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I signed up for this like probably about a month ago, and I had it on my calendar. When I got up this morning, I didn't even look at my phone to get my kids ready, so I apologize for being late.
No worries.
But, thanks for emailing me and getting me on the schedule and keeping me up on this. So it was a lot of fun to talk about it. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Well, you have a good rest of your day.
You too. Take care.